Hello and welcome to the Get Offset podcast. My name is Andrew,
And I'm Emily.
and today we are going to talk about all of the
Jen.
yeah,
I
all
cut
of
you
the
off there.
gins,
All of the gins. We had all of the gins yesterday.
several gins, and a Scotch and a whiskey ?
Are you talking about my bourbon barrel aged gin?
No, I'm talking about the PBR whiskey that Rick really liked
Oh,
and you thought was vile.
it was vile.
Rick liked it, which I don't quite understand why. I'm wondering if he was just being polite
I think he was just being polite.
because I think it's vile too.
He wouldn't tell you to your face it was vile. He's more Midwestern than me in that regard.
Well,
I'm sorry, did he say it was quote interesting?
no.
Okay, because that
And then
definitely
he got
means he hated it.
no,
If he
he
said it
didn't
was
say.
interesting.
He said he was enjoying it, and then he got mad when he poured out the rest of it back into your gimlet you're working on.
That was a mistake on my part, man.
Yeah,
I had a thing to
so
go to after that, and went home. And originally, we did the time that we did because I was like, "Oh well, I have to, go to a birthday party at 8 or something."
context for this conversation. Yesterday, Emily and
Yeah,
Rick came over and we filmed a bit for 60 Cycle Hum. Can I say that?
I
I could
get.
say that, right?
I. I mean, you've already said it.
That's just all I'm going to say about that. We just filmed a bit.
Yeah.
And it was exciting and fun. And then after we were done filming our bit, me and my wife, Melissa, my mom, also Emily, and you, Emily, and your husband, Rick, we all had drinks.
Yeah, we had
It was a good time.
four different kinds of gin. I think honestly, my favorite was the one in the blue bottle.
The gunpowder
That was
gin.
delightful.
That's the one I picked up on a whim right before
It
you
was
guys
so
came
pretty.
over.
And then the one that your mom had was also really good. Copper.
Yeah, that one makes
Go
for.
ahead.
Oh, the one my mom has is that was Death's Door
That's
gin.
really
I think it's
good.
from
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Or like Wisconsin
Yeah,
inspired or something.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. It was all very
I
good.
should have looked at the bottles before the episode. I don't remember entirely where it's from, but yeah, no, I like that one a lot. And the weird thing is, I had a falling out with gin several
I know
years
you
ago,
did.
and I'm coming back around. I'm starting to. There's enough variation, variety.
Variety.
There's enough variety between the different gins where I appreciate it much more than I did a few years ago.
Yeah, that's good.
So I got to try just a splash of each, but Rick and I were in the corner drinking my early birthday present that I got, which was Lagavulin 16
Scotch.
Scotch.
I am not a fan.
Well, Rick and I were not complaining.
No, he likes scotch too, so that was really nice of you to share.
And then we made some good coffee.
hmm So I had brought to the party a Copperworks gin. That's a local gin that was also very, very good. They were all those first three gins were all very good and just like subtly different in fine ways.
They weren't even that subtly different. They were
Yeah.
drastically.
They were, but they weren't as drastically different as the one from South Carolina,
That's
which was a
true.
barrel aged gin. After you had the other gins, the more botanical gins, because some of them had notes of tea, some of those had notes of like pepper, and
That
then
Copperworks one was like downright citrus.
yeah, and then you have the barrel aged one, which just like tasted almost like syrup after the other ones. It
It
was
did
very
kind of, yeah.
honey, a lot of honey. Yeah,
No, no, it was like it really pulled the sweetness from the oak barrel, but then the citrus from the gin itself. So I just tried it just like a small splash of it with a slightly larger splash of tonic,
hmm
and honestly, it just kind of tasted like lemon coke to me. It was
yeah,
really strange because it pulled like that sweetness and the botanical all came together almost like a cola is the best way I could describe it.
yeah. What's weird to me is I've never tasted that gin next to other gins, so I've always been like, oh yeah, it's really great with some tonic and a cinnamon stick instead. But it always to me tasted like gin until yesterday, and then I'm like, oh my god, what is
Yeah,
this?
that was a completely different liquor altogether.
Yes,
That
it was
was
great.
it was a very interesting experience, and me being as adventurous as I am with flavors and culinary items, that was really cool to try. So thank you for bringing it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. That was a lot of fun. We should do that more often. However, I think Rick about had a panic attack pulling up your driveway. He's
I
like,
t-
"There's cars behind me." I'm like, "You're gonna back in because you don't want to back out."
I back out of that driveway every day going to work.
Ugh. Well, that's early though.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's at 5 a.m., so there's
Yeah, no
literally nobody else
cars.
on the road. But
Yeah, some of your neighbors have those handy dandy mirrors, and I think that maybe you should get one of those.
yeah, but then our landlord doesn't want to pay for it. So do we want to be the ones to pony up the cash for investing in their property?
Well, one, how much is it?
By the time we're done, like putting a post in the ground, because there's not a tree we can put it
Oh,
on.
you'd have to put the concrete. Yeah, probably not worth it unless you could
Yeah,
like take it with you.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily have to do full on concrete, but I would still have to get like a weatherproofed post
Yeah.
and dig it into the ground and get that all. And the mirror itself is like 40 or $50 on Amazon for one of the smaller ones. I'm not sure
Oh,
how much good that's going to do me.
yeah, you'd want one of the big ones. So for those who are confused as hell, Andrew lives on a busy-ish street, and his driveway is super duper steep and has a blind spot.
A very big blind spot being like the row of cherry trees in my front yard.
Murder trees.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know. I haven't had an issue with it yet.
That's good.
Yet.
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 Yet. Hopefully never. Knock on wood.
Yep.
That was me. Yeah. So, what's new with you? You have a new toy as of yesterday.
Yeah, you brought over the new toy that I bought from Brian, even though he doesn't know that I bought it.
That's weird because he absolutely like in the chat. I thought it was very clear, but whatever.
Yeah, I thought he probably just forgot because it was going to you. So I
Maybe he
bought.
was just screwing with you. That sounds like something Brian would do.
I haven't opened it up yet. I wonder if there's like a massive dick inside.
No, I opened it up. There's not a massive dick. It just says made for Emily.
That so Brian's the builder at Spruce Effects, and
Mhm.
that's something he totally would do.
Yeah, he just retired.
But
Everyone who's listening, he just retired a few pedals, and one of them was a Saltwater Fuzz, which I released a demo of. If you're listening to this on the release date, I released a demo of it yesterday, uh, which was fun for me. I kind of upset with myself for not getting one, but I got the Rainier Fuzz to go with my Mount Hood Fuzz instead.
yeah, I haven't had a chance to plug it in yet, but it looks even cooler in person than it does in the photos. And I'm gonna have to find a little bit of time to plug in my Telecaster and run that into my amps and get loud.
Yeah. I really liked it for like kind of sustained textural fuzzy chords.
Maybe I'm gonna have to play with that running it after some reverb.
Ooh.
I
Getting
just
wild.
Heck yeah. I like having fun. What can I
Yeah,
say? My
yeah,
name's
we all
Andrew,
like
and I like to party
yeah. Andrew likes to party with his scotch
and gin.
and gin
I
and
actually didn't party.
wine.
You partied way harder than I think any of us did. Jeez.
Ouch, that sounded judgy.
No, I'm jealous because I had to drive right after that.
Oh yeah, I just had to go to another party and I didn't drink at the other party. But so my friend and former client rented out a bar slash music venue that I've performed at like 3 times in the past month and will be at next Thursday. And so the bartender remembered me and he kept making me up some really nice ginger mocktails and things like that. That's one of the cool things about that bar is they um if you order like a Moscow Mule or something, they muddle their own ginger instead of using a ginger beer. I don't think they have ginger beer. I think they
Oh,
just like do it themselves and it's really nice. So I was really excited. I had 4 mocktails, which were basically like soda water, lime, and ginger. And it was really nice to walk out of a bar and not have a $40 tab or whatever that would normally like actual alcohol would cost you in Seattle.
right. Seattle bars are very expensive.
I still tipped him really well because I go there a lot.
Oh
and
yeah.
and I love it when you become that person where like I don't get free drinks or anything, which is fine, but I do get a little bit of special treatment. If he sees me waiting in the line, he might just make whatever I'm drinking and slide it over to
Have it
me.
ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, and that to me is more valuable than money. Time.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
No, there's few things I hate worse than like sitting at the bar and like trying to get the bartender's attention, and someone else walks up, and I've been already there for a couple of minutes, and they jump like they manage to get the bartender's attention faster than I do because they're taller than me because I'm short.
You are little.
I'm a little short. That's fine.
You're a little buddy.
Aw,
Oh.
works out for me when I'm on planes though, because in just regular class, I whatever coach is what we call it these days.
Yeah.
Uh, I can get my legs fully outstretched.
That's weird. I like the aisle seat because then I can stretch a little one of my legs into the aisle. I like to be able to stretch my left leg. I have my knee is not so great on that leg. So being able to stretch that one out is key. But I digress. I have some new things. You want to hear
Does that
about
mean I
them?
can start? Does that mean I can start calling you old buddy?
Do you value
R-
having fingers that work? Because
Okay, mom.
yeah, I'm gonna break your fingers. Just kidding. That was really very aggressive of me. No,
That's
please.
probably payback for my accidentally very judgy comment about you enjoying the company of my family. I'm sorry, that came off way judgy than it needed to.
It's okay. I mean, I did go home and take a 3-hour nap.
No, that's a sign of a good
Yeah,
time.
surefire sign of a good time. Then I didn't sleep at all that night because I took a 3-hour nap at 6 o'clock. But I got some new things since we last recorded.
You've got a lot of new things.
Well, I think that the one I want to talk about right now is I got a Milkman the amp that basically it's a floor unit and it's a tube amplifier with reverb and tremolo. And it can be completely noiseless. So I just plug my headphones into it, plug it into my uh, the, the little Tascam I use to record demos, and I can do completely noiseless demos, which means I normally I only like to be loud between like with an amp, and I try not to be too loud. Kind of like after from like 5 to 8. I don't like going later than that. My neighbors all say they can't hear me, but I want to be polite, and I feel kind of bad if Rick's trying to watch a documentary or something and I'm like playing my guitar trying to film a demo for, half an hour. So this will
Right.
give me the freedom to like film a demo really quick on my lunch break, or if I have a bout of insomnia, I can go downstairs and turn on the lights and the camera and do a demo there, or just even just playing guitar. I spent the whole weekend I'm playing with my friend Michelle as the All Night Boys in Nashville on November 9th at the Five Spot. So I spent the whole weekend just going through her songs um, with the Milkman the amp. Yeah, it sounds real good. Every once in a while I get a little bit of interference from, the light fixtures and the computer, but for the most part, it's just it
That's any amp
it
though.
is any amp, and it just feels like any amp. And yeah, the spring reverb on it is drippy, and the tremolo is tasteful. It's just all around like fantastic. Like I can see taking that to shows and taking it on tour for sure.
So the reverb passes the Pete Davidson test.
I don't know Pete Davids, the guy from SNL.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Does he drip or
It,
something?
it he did a thing. Was it last week or the week before about STDs, and it was pretty
Oh,
funny.
that was
So it's
funny.
the Pete Davidson does it drip.
I don't remember that part of that episode, but I remember that he did that. He's funny. I like him.
It,
I worry about him, but I like him.
I think that's pretty much the consensus of everybody who watches him. He's great, but sometimes like, man, you gonna be all right? Like,
I don't
geez,
know if
take care of yourself,
but I don't
buddy.
know if at the same time if I've ever seen someone more willing to make fun of himself.
That's true. Yeah.
Also,
I don't know.
also,
I feel like I'm
I feel like
slowly.
he should take back his apology for a joke that he made at one point, but I won't get into the politics of that.
Yeah, we'll take a step back from that one before we get
Yeah.
too into the
So that's the
sticks.
big thing. I also got an atmosphere from Dr. Scientist, and holy smokes,
What?
talk about reverb. Like,
And that pretty much makes you a gamer, right?
it's so cool. There's a special, like, I know that there's some sort of like game you can play on it. Um,
Hmm.
but well, all I've gotten so far with it is changing like the bypass screen from the default to I picked the pizza. It's just like, yes, because
Nice.
I like pizza. Um,
Pizza,
yeah.
pizza.
Speaking of Dr. Scientist sounds, I'm going to be filming uh hopefully a very in-depth demo with that pedal, if not a few demos with it. And I just want to shout out Dr. Scientist Sounds as a sponsor of the podcast. Woot woot. Yes.
Heck yeah.
Uh Canadians are fantastic. I was in Canada for the Canadian Thanksgiving, and it was real chill. I had some pumpkin pie. I had some pumpkin scones. Ugh, I love Thanksgiving food. Man alive.
And I gotta say, like, why is it I've got this theory or like a trend that I've picked up on, but Canadian pedal builders tend to make the coolest, most out of the box pedals over the last few years. It's just across the board. And so I gotta say
So
thank you,
there's
Canada.
Dr. Scientist, there's Solid Gold effects, there's Montreal Assembly. Wait, no, gosh, is that right?
I don't
Fairfield
actually know
Circuitry,
much about
Fairfield
that company.
Circuitry, and Montreal Assembly. They're the ones who do the count to five, I think. Yeah.
Yep, that's the count to 5. There's
Oh,
Empress, which does
yeah,
the
those are great.
Zawaya and several other
Yeah.
really cool things. The Zawaya is the most recent, like, whoa, that's super out of the box, but I actually super
Yeah,
want one.
nice. Cool. Well, who else do we got on yeah, shout out
So
to Dr. Scientist Sounds. Uh,
shout out to Dr. Scientist, shout out to the
yeah.
Canadians, and on the other end of the continent, one of my other favorite regions is
No way.
California.
Is
This
it?
episode is brought to you by yeah. Am I wrong about this? I'm like 85% positive Strymon's from California.
No, I'm
They're
just
from
saying, you like California? No way.
no way, man.
Way.
I feel like I haven't brought out that voice in a little bit.
That's not true. You definitely did it last week.
Did I? Did I?
80% sure.
Did I, man? I don't know. I've spoken to a whole lot of devil's lettuce, man. I don't even know.
Oh god, I've never
Um,
ugh.
I don't know. I've already botched her Strymon spot. Golly, sorry guys. Guess we'll have to make it up for you by saying your stuff is super rad and I like it and I want more of it.
So, Strymon is another sponsor of this episode of Get Offset. If
Heck
you're
yeah, glad
listening
to
to
have them on board on the Get Offset train and
mhm, mhm, mhm. And
super great guys over there.
if you are listening to this on the 22nd, which is the day this episode comes out, tomorrow tune into the YouTubes around noonish Pacific time for their new pedal that they've been teasing the heck out of.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's gonna be dope.
It's pretty cool. I like it a lot. I know that you want it, but it's mine.
I know it's yours, but I offered to buy it from you.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of need it though.
Really, you've got other things that do the exact same thing.
No, I don't. Not
And that's all
exactly.
I can say about that. That's all I can say about that.
I mean, I have pedals that do a lot of things, but none of them do what this does.
I wanna
Tough
hey,
nuggets.
if the guys at Strymon wanna be super nice and, send me one as well, that would be appreciated. I make no promises past that
I bet they would
other
give you an
than
artist discount if you were real nice about it.
I mean, probably, but then I have to be broke again, and I don't know. I should I'm gonna get myself into trouble if I keep talking.
You
I
are.
I'm
Don't
I'm
you'll get
doing
us in
so good with
trouble.
this secret so far.
Yes, you need to
Um,
shut your dirty little
well, I think
mouth.
shut your face. Cool. So I think we've teased that plenty,
Yeah.
and rightfully so.
I'm excited. It seems like the whole praise and worship community is excited from all the screenshots you sent me about people's guesses and whatnot.
Heck yeah. Well, rightfully so, and I think their minds are gonna be blown because
Yeah, I wish that people that would take I wish
I need to stop talking about this. It's so cool. I can't stop talking. If I keep talking, I'm
yeah.
gonna ruin the whole surprise. We're gonna get fired.
I wish that people who spend so much time trying to, like, decode what this announcement is would, like, take that time and instead, like, try to help, like, those organizations where you look through pictures of missing children and stuff like that and try to, help humans. Like, that'd be really neat. That's just my take. If you have that much time on your
Well then,
hands, maybe you should listen to, The Murder Squad with Jensen and Holes and help them solve crimes. Like, that's my take.
well, I'm glad you have a take, and I'm glad that I'm happy that people are happy.
Yeah. Cool. So, I think we're gonna get into the topic a little bit now. So,
Yes, let's talk about the
so,
topic. And
so the
this isn't a topic that I know a whole lot about, so this is going to be a fun episode where you explain things to me and I give you my full, raw, honest, on the spot feedback.
yeah, I don't think that a lot of musicians know that this exists. I think that a lot of musicians don't realize that there's an organization called the American Federation of Musicians. That's basically a musicians union. Um, and so I'm in a lot of groups on Facebook, and in one of the groups, someone posed a question like, "Hey, people who are solo performers, um, when you play with a band, how do you pay the members of the band?" Like, assuming, I think the premise was like, she's the only member of her band. Like, she performs under a name. I've recorded with her. She's always paid me whatever rate I've asked. She's wonderful. I like this person. I would play with her in a heartbeat. Um, but she was just asking, like, how do you normally do these things? Because, you don't always get money for gigs. I think we all realize that uh, there's a level of gigs that you play, and then you might not get money for them. Um, And so people were talking about how they pay their musicians that they perform with, who are basically hired guns. And I was a little surprised by some of the responses. Um, a lot of people said they don't have a set rate that they pay. Some people say that they, pay the musicians a little bit, but they pay themselves the most because they do the most of the work with the promotion and everything. Um, and some people say, which is how I was raised and how I was taught being in, like, studying music business in Nashville, was that if you're the artist, you pay yourself last. That doesn't mean you don't pay yourself at all, but it means you keep the people who work for you happy, the same way that really in a small business, the owner should pay his or herself last. Uh, and no one else really brought up the idea of the musician's minimum wage scale. Is this something you're familiar with?
This is something I don't know if I've ever heard this before, and maybe that's partly due to the fact that I've most of my musical experience has been in the church community where it's more on a volunteer basis for an organization. There's not ever really an expectation to get paid for it, but
Yeah. So, uh,
this is a strange concept to me. I'm
so,
intrigued.
so
You
I
got my
don't, I
attention.
don't know for sure if scale varies by location. I suspect that it might. But the idea of scale is minimum wage. Like, have you ever heard stories about famous actors like Robin Williams? I believe worked on a few films for scale. So that was the Actors Union scale, and it is literally the minimum wage, and it's supposed to protect people in the same way that any other minimum wage does. Like, okay, so you can't get paid less than this certain amount of money. Um, and if you're working at a business, uh y- no one's gonna bat an eye if you ask for at least minimum wage. But for some reason, as a musician, um it's there's I think maybe because so many people are willing to do it for free, that it has really diluted itself, and musicians no longer can seem to rely on getting paid scale. Instead, they get paid cuts often. So scale is, I have a document pulled up. Uh, it has different types of engagements, um, kind of extra fees, and like what you should charge for different things. It has sort of rules about things like here's one: commencement of all services shall be no more than 15 minutes after after musicians are instructed to report. Members must report 10 minutes before the start of an engagement. Failure to comply will result in charges against the offender by leader and or contractor. Just to give you a taste of what's in this. So it exists to protect musicians, um, which is a
Right.
beautiful thing. Musicians should be protected because what you're doing is work. And if somebody's making money, you should be making money also. But let's look at some of these. So there are like extra fees here, and I'll post a link to the one that I'm looking at in the show notes. Things like the leader fee. So the band leader should always get double scale. Um, a single performer fee. So if you're the only one performing, double scale. Conductor fee, double scale. New Year's Eve is double scale. Local access TV, including PBS, $30 surcharge per musician. Local radio, including NPR, $15 surcharge per musician. Warm up and rehearsals, half an hour warm up, $20, extra half an hour. Uh, $10 not to exceed 1.5 hours of total rehearsal time. Rain dates, things like doubling, cartage. So how much should you charge to move a portable keyboard over 40 pounds? How much would you guess moving a portable keyboard over 40 pounds if you're bringing that to a gig? How much would you guess that costs?
Lukewarm case of PBR.
$60. An amplifier is
Dang.
$12. Um, a
What about a
cabinet,
cabinet
let's
though?
see where that is in here. Uh, I see organ and amp speaker is $60, but that's an organ. I'm gonna go. Oh, amplifier slash speaker is $12. So a PA system is $36.
Gotcha.
Drum
So
set is 42. Steel drum is $12.
I love how there's
Yeah,
something
that's really
in there for a
specific.
steel drum.
Tuba and double bass combined for some reason is on here, as is tuba and electric bass. Are those things normally brought together by the same person?
I mean, those are both bass clef instruments.
Yes, but they are quite different. And then there's travel. So your travel costs. If you're traveling, uh, it doesn't say under 30 miles, but over 30 miles, like 31 to 40 miles, you get paid 12 extra bucks. 151 to 160 miles, you get 176. Anything above that, you have to negotiate.
So, okay, so this is a long list of basically the legal guideline of what people should get paid for this line of work, right?
Yeah, so it has now we're looking at single engagements, non-concert settings, so dance or dinner banquet,
Wedding singer.
wedding reception.
Haha!
Yeah, so 2 hours or less per musician. Each musician should be getting paid at least $120 plus any extra cartage fees and travel fees for 2 hours. For 3 hours, it's 144. 4 hours, 168, and then you get 44 for each additional hour thereof. So with the leader getting paid double whatever that scale is. So if you've ever hired a wedding band or a wedding performer, I feel like you're probably lucky if you paid less than this because wedding bands understand their value and
Right.
their demand. But for a lot of other things, like and that's why you pay more, is because this is literally minimum wage. Because not within this is the time that someone spends learning songs, practicing. There are rehearsals if you have them do a rehearsal in your space. Um, but for the most part, like I don't think people really understand that aspect of it, that when someone's performing, it's not just the time that they're on stage, like the 45 minutes to an hour and a half they're on stage. It's all the other time they spend learning those songs, getting them down, practicing them on their own and with others. It's so yeah, 120 bucks for 2 hours really doesn't even feel like that much money when you think about all the work that a musician puts into things.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a whole range of response to that. I because for starters, I didn't know that that was a thing, and it's kind of strange to think that there's like a Bible of sorts for this. Um,
Yeah, it's this whole worksheet. It even has club things, and
where
then
did you
you,
find this? Is this
I
like a
just
well
Googled it.
known?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it should be. Like I just Googled, I'm at A American Federation Museums 21.org, so AFM21.org/scale. Uh, and it even has like club dates. So there are different sizes of clubs. A club is a bar or restaurant that operates under an established name. For example, I play a lot at Connor Byrne. And then there's 3 classes, and you would contact the office for a list of venues, and you would figure out what it was. So Class C club, I think that's probably the size that a lot of people play. I have to imagine that is a Connor Burn, small club, whatever. It says 3 hours or less per musician is $36. That's not a lot of money. That
No, it's
shouldn't
not.
that so it really shouldn't be an issue to pay people, each band member, at least $36 for their time at a minimum.
Right, right, right. So, man, so okay, so so there's this federation that makes this, but it's not enforceable. It's just a strong suggestion. This is really what people should be getting paid, right?
If you want to be in the union and you take gigs and you do not collect payment for this, I imagine, or if you are in this union and you do not pay your musicians that, I have to imagine that you get removed from the union.
Right, right. Okay, so it's like a union membership sort of deal.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
a union thing, and it's it really is truly recommendations, but these are such basic
right.
level.
Yeah, no, I get that that's kind of a minimum like it's minimum wage. So I get that that's kind
Yeah.
of bottom level for what people should be getting paid according to whoever made this, but a couple quick follow-up questions before I launch into full reactions. Uh, benefits of being in of this particular union. I've never been in a union, so I've got a little bit of an outsider's perspective. But I'm just curious why, aside like why would someone join this union?
Well, they would join it for the reasons you join any other union. As somebody is you're paying for people to lobby on your behalf, work on your behalf to improve everything from your working conditions to your wages. Uh, a big reason a lot of people join musicians unions is that is often the first stop that a lot of people go when they need to hire a good musician and they don't know where to start. So they'll
Oh,
reach
that makes
out to
sense. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so they'll reach out to the AFM and be like, "Hey, this band that I'm trying to get together, like we need someone to play double bass. I don't know where to start." They could put out a call to their members, and then the member would get paid at least wage, if not their regular rate, which would ostensibly be above scale.
Right, right. Which I guess makes a whole lot more sense than just like posting on Craigslist. Hey, I'm looking for a drummer. I need him to like this band, and I need him to be on time and to not smoke, but I need him to be okay with weed or
Yeah.
whatever the random stuff you see on Craigslist. So
Yeah,
that seems a lot more professional. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
that's the reason. Those are the big reasons you would join a union, and a lot of people aren't super duper pro unions, but that's why.
well, yeah, because people like their money. So so I've got three responses to my literally just now discoverment of this existence. Are you ready?
Yes.
First of all, I have to respect it 100% because to quote a great philosopher, the Joker, if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Yeah, this is true.
So that's a start. Two, I think this gives me a larger appreciation for the monetary value of what church musicians put in, because a lot of church musicians and worship teams, they don't get paid. Maybe the worship leader does, or the worship director, because there's a lot more administrative work on the back end for that kind of stuff, but that gives you a better appreciation for what that monetary value would look like just from the amount of volunteer time they're putting in. Uh, but then three, there's the follow question of supply and demand, because you mentioned that there's tons of people who are willing to do this for free if that means getting their break. And I'm
Yeah.
torn between that. Seems like venues are um, people who are putting on shows are taking advantage of these poor souls who just want an edge.
Mhm.
Um, and the flip side being is, well, the, the the law of supply and demand is such a fundamental root of economic theory and capitalism and how the U.S. is run. And I'm not going to defend that outright, but I'm just curious to hear. I want to know what your thoughts are and how that plays into this, because if someone's willing to do it for cheaper, I mean, that's kind of how this works. But
At the same time, that's exactly what ruins it for everybody. And it's the same. Like there are bands out there that are 100% willing to do pay to play because they just want to play. And the only reason these venues exist and continue to do this is because bands continue to go along with it. Just because this is your passion, and sometimes people
right,
feel weird about taking money for their passion, or they're like, well, everybody does it. But if nobody did it, it wouldn't be a thing, because then these bars that rely on these bands to bring in people to sell their alcohol wouldn't have anyone in their venues. Like they would have to find something else to do, someone else to screw. So it and I'm not really
isn't that
so
what open mic night is for?
so I'm talking a little bit less about like the venues, and like when you like talking about how venues pay musicians is sort of different. Like what I'm mostly talking about here is if you're a solo performer and you want to have people backing you up, but at the same time, you don't want it to be a collective band, uh, then you need to pay people what their rate is. And you need to pay people at least what scale is my opinion. And thankfully that was the opinion of a lot of the people in this group was, hey, yeah, I most of my shows are coffee house gigs and I play by myself. But when I have a big gig that I maybe want to film for whatever reason, or it's important, I might not make any money personally because I want to have a better experience for, whatever the purpose is for the big show. So she's like, I'm going to pay the
Right.
band what they ask. And if I can't afford somebody, then I'll try to find somebody who's in level with what I can afford. Like I've been paid this year between 125 and 175 per gig. Um, and that includes for a lot of those gigs extensive rehearsal time. So that probably goes, it turns out a little bit north of scale, according to this worksheet. Um, but there are people who are saying that they don't pay their band anything, that everything that they have with their solo projects and that music for every gig, that the band doesn't take anything out of it, that they put it all into a band savings account. And I thought that was bananas, because they are not like, they're your hired guns. It's not like Sunday Crush where we're all part of the same collective and we're all in it for, I mean, the same, I don't want to say the same goal, but like it's part of our identity. Or
Right, right.
and it's not like, oh yeah, I play with this person sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. There's a big difference between like, oh, we're just like a bunch of buddies that play in a garage and this is what we do for fun versus this is a professional thing. You're paying someone or should be paying someone to come out, that someone that you either don't know well or don't know at all,
Yeah.
that they're just backing up your
Yeah,
project.
and clearly it
And
doesn't have to be a lot. Like that's,
I just have a
yeah. Actually there was another section that was paid performances under $10, which is a lot of the ones that I pay. So for ticket
I
prices under $10, you're supposed to pay $108 for 2 hours or less per musician. That's higher, but
right.
yeah, that's harder. And sometimes you
I
can't,
think
and
that
sometimes, sorry, one more thing I would say. The thing is sometimes you can't afford a band if you're a solo performer, and it's a bit hard sometimes when you're starting out. So that's the thing. If you can't afford a band, then it's just like if you can't afford anything else in life. Like
but can you afford a looper?
I mean, I've seen people do that. It wasn't bad.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
Are you making fun of Aaron Abubo?
Maybe.
Yeah. I saw a woman named Lisa Prank open for Liz Fair, and she had just a bunch of tracks she had built in a Boss looper, and she would just start the looper, play the song, and then she had her own guitar but everything else was in that little loop box. It was
Right.
cool. It wasn't like live looping, but she couldn't afford a band for that show probably, or couldn't get them all together last minute or whatever the situation was. So instead of bringing people that she didn't pay, she just didn't bring anybody.
Well, and I'd be lying if I said that I've never played to live tracks before, but
There's nothing wrong with it. St. Vincent does it, and she charges $40 or whatever for tickets.
I think what's really shocking to me though is the idea that some of these solo musicians are um, doing this kind of stuff for free, and I feel like I should have known that in the back of my head, but I what kind of a jerk move would it be to be like, hey, I've got my own music, my own project. I want you to come play drums for this one show, and sorry, all I can offer you is a couple of lukewarm PBRs.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And I just like I don't know if they're there to support you. It's got to be reciprocal there. That seems like a natural response to that sort of arrangement in my
Yeah.
head. But I mean, I don't know. It's also easier for me to say that because I'm not actively in the process of trying to sort out how much money I can afford to try and push for my passion. And so I
Mhm.
definitely, on the flip side of that, and this is a subject that we've talked about um, with the Jesus discount episode, is the idea of wanting to make your dollar stretch for as far as you can when you're
Yeah.
working on a project that's something you really care about or you really believe in. And that episode was about how churches often feel a strain of trying to make every dollar stretch for as long as they can. So I also I understand and empathize with the that side of things for solo performers, but I don't know. I think it goes back to you've got to pay people what they're worth. I think
Yeah.
that should just be a found fundamental aspect of how we do business.
Yeah. I mean, and I've had friends who I've played with them, just like her and I. And after the show, she took her $30 cut and handed me 15 of those dollars.
No,
Yeah, it was a really sweet thing. And I know that she has a band and she's technically like a solo performer, but she has the same band for every show and they have a name and everything. So I consider that to be like a band. And I know that she pays them, quote, fair splits, which is basically ever even splits
right?
for all the shows. And that's how you keep people like wanting to play with you if you're a solo performer is you pay them well. Like the music can be fantastic. It can be the best music you've ever heard. Um, but in the end, like if someone doesn't seem to value your time or your skills enough to pay you, I think you gotta go find the gigs that pay. And I said it before, but it's so I moved to Seattle uh from Nashville. And one of the reasons it was such a good move for us was because in Nashville, there were so many people coming out studying music business who wanted to be in the music business, and they didn't care how little they got paid. $21,000 a year? Sure. Great. Sign me up. And they would work that for 5 years before they inevitably burn out and go back to school and find something else to do.
Change
And
industries entirely
exactly. And then they would just be replaced with other people who are willing to work for next to nothing. And the company
because
that I was at
for every 10
specifically
people that do that, there's one
yeah.
person that actually makes it.
Yeah. And it's not and then we moved to Seattle and immediately found work, and well-paying work and even work in the music industry that, for the amount of time I was putting in made more sense hourly than it did in Nashville. Like
Wait,
I
wait, don't say that. Don't say that. No, everybody's gonna move to Seattle. It's gonna change our
Of
scene.
course, the cost of living is way higher here, but
Oh yeah, that is true.
people don't work for free here,
Don't
and
move to Seattle. It's expensive.
it's really expensive.
We'll
Um,
just sit over here and enjoy it all by ourselves.
yeah, but musicianship is kind of similar. Like people work for so long, and no one values their work because they can know that they can replace you with someone who will work for nothing. But if everyone, and that's what unions are for, if everyone decides they won't work for nothing, then people are going to start getting paid, or people are going
So
to
what you're
stop listening to
saying
music, and
is
I don't think that's going to happen.
So what you're saying is if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Joker.
I think that's really. I think that should be the name of the episode.
If you're good at something.
Never do it for free.
Yeah. That's
Well,
called a callback.
no, I actually really like that, and yeah, I'm still just I like I. There's a lot in this episode that I didn't know about, and I'm still kind of thrown by the idea that there's a union for this. I'm not inherently against it, but whether or not you join a union, I definitely agree. You got to advocate for yourself. You got to not take just money, like take the cash or not take cash, just take a gig for quote unquote exposure.
Exposure. People die from exposure.
that's that's true. Uh, and other, I'm not going to make that joke.
Yeah, don't do it. Or are you
Um,
going to say and
no,
dysentery? Or whatever
no,
those other Oregon Trail things were that you would just die so
no.
abruptly and you'd be like, what? I just.
I was, I was going to riff on a different definition of exposure, and moving forward, yeah, no, don't take the gig just for free, just for the exposure, the experience. Like if you're doing the work, you're owed the money. I think that's completely fair.
Yeah.
I think this is again adding to the noise of yet another couple folks saying like, "Hey, venue owners, this isn't." I think this conversation, like we've talked more specifically about solo performers in this, but extending the conversation farther out, I think these principles have got to apply to venue owners who, when they bring musicians for exposure, quote unquote, they're not, they're getting a lot more value out of their venue by virtue of the fact that musicians are there and playing music.
Yeah.
And I think that's got to be reciprocated. And I'm not going to put down hard numbers, but there's got to be more appreciation for that. And I
Yeah.
don't know.
Again, if you can't afford to have live performers at your bar, then you don't get to book them.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that about just about a great place to start. Stop. Oh my goodness.
Agreed.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in. Please leave us a Oh, should we shout out our new patrons really quick?
Oh, yeah.
Patreon. Patreon. We have a Patreon, everybody. We have 10 total patrons. Let's see. We have Mark Packham at the $1 level. We have Joe Braga at the $5 level. Thank you, Joe. Jason Weiser at $1. Mark Gannon at $1. Jim Burns at $1. Zach Hale at $1. And Elia Franson. I am sorry if I butchered any of those names. But thank you for supporting the show. It makes us so happy. It pays for our expenses. We need to schedule some stuff to do the patron only, the special patron episode.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah, we also have our For Fuzz's Sake lineup. We have hats and shirts on the website. And if you can leave us a review on iTunes if you don't feel like supporting us in any financial way, we do understand. We do this podcast for free. We mean, we're fine with that. This is the crap we talk about if we weren't doing the podcast anyway. But
In other words, help me, I'm
help me,
poor.
I'm poor. Just love that movie.
Love that
Yeah,
movie.
nice. Please,
All
yeah.
right. Well, I think that about
Yes,
sums it
thanks
up.
for listening. Thanks for understanding. Again, I'm Emily.
I'm Andrew.
Goodbye.
Bye.